this practice of Tara Chittamani, Chitta means heart, is interesting because Chitta means both heart and mind. Okay. So sometimes it's translated as heart, sometimes as mind. Okay, so Chitta is the mind, heart. Mani means jewel. So the Tara, that is the jewel of the heart, the jewel of the mind. And there is a special connection between the practice of Tara Chittamani and the practice of self-healing on different ways. The first one is that the practice of self-healing was a practice that Rinpoche taught, not based on, let's say, logical reasoning. It was not that Rinpoche went through an academical process of research to understand how better to fit the Buddhist practices of the Vajrayana tradition to the modern mentality, and after a long research and trials, he came and made self-healing. It's not like this. That's how most of us would have done. Instead, Rinpoche, he was in Borobudur in the end of the 80s. It was not something that came all at once. It was few years that he went there, but he had a vision. He had this, let's call, mystical experience as he was in Borobudur, where he saw in the mandala of Borobudur, he saw the practice manifesting. No? So that profound experience, very strong, that Rinpoche himself had, he translated to us in the practice of self-healing. Okay, and this is something that happened few times in our lineage. It's not something that happens very often. It happens only every few generations normally. I don't know, maybe many practitioners and masters can have their own experiences and visions and so on, but to translate this experience into a practice that is taught after, it's something that doesn't happen very often. No? And Rinpoche, when he had this, when he was teaching self-healing afterwards, he said, no, that actually self-healing is a terma. This is written in Self-Healing number 2 book. A terma means a treasure, something that was hidden, and this was hidden in his own mental continuum. When in a previous life, Rinpoche was one master called Trobu Lotsawa, and Rinpoche says that Trobu Lotsawa, he developed this practice of self-healing in different ways, but it was those around him at the time were not suitable to receive these teachings. So he kept it hidden in his mind. And then few lives later, the conditions appeared. So that's when Rinpoche had all these visions and this image. Rinpoche once he told me, I cannot tell everything, otherwise you'll say I'm crazy, you know. So he had his own experiences and he translated it into the practice of self-healing. The practice of Tara Chittamani, there was this important master called Tabu Dorje Chankargi Pema Kargi Wanchuk. So Pema Kargi Wanchuk had 13 visions. Had 13 different visions that he translated into a practice. And Tara Chittamani is one of them. Okay? There are 13 altogether. When Nima Tulku came to Albaniano, he gave the transmission of all the 13. But a few centuries have passed, and from all the 13, there are some particular forms of Vajra Yogini, there are other practices inside, but the one that really thrived, like when he gave these practices, sure, there were disciples practicing it, but some generations after, the practice that is really very strongly kept alive is the practice of Tara Chittamani. So in our tradition, which our lineage, which is Lama Ganche Rinpoche, Rinpoche's gurus, Kyabche Son Rinpoche, Kyabche Trichan Rinpoche, Papunka Rinpoche, they all practiced very strongly Tara Chittamani. Papunka Rinpoche received the transmission of Tara Chittamani from one, there was the master that developed the practice of Tara Chittamani, which says the practice of Tara, it's coming from the teachings of Buddha, but there are some particular details how he added in the practice. No? Then he passed away, there was one reincarnation, then the other reincarnation was the guru of Papunka Rinpoche. And this was also the guru that transmitted to Papunka Rinpoche the practice of Dorje Shuten. It was the same master. And so on many levels, this is a very, very important master that we call Tabuk Dorje Chan, different lives of Tabu Dorje Chan. For the most famous one in the beginning was Pema Kargi Wanchuk. And so this is where this practice of Tara Chittamani is coming. Personally, I had a particular experience because it happened more or less in the same time. One was that I was reading the translation of the 21 Taras into English at that time. No? And it was the root tantra of Tara. It is coming from the older teachings of Buddha and all the sutras. There is the root tantra of Tara. I was reading it in English, in a book written in English called In Praise of Tara. Very nicely done, from one disciple of Geshe Rabten. So I was reading this book in English. I was living in India, and I had this very strong wish to read the original version in Tibetan. So I went to the department where I was living, and they had all the sutras of Buddha, the whole Kangyur, in the altar there, no? So I said, oh, can I have the volume number, this and that, which in the book there was in the bibliography, the value of the volume. I said, I want to read something there. And they said, yes. When? I don't know. Oh, need to take the ladder, go up there. And normally they don't like to open these books, because when they open and they take from the whole volume few pages, then maybe they don't come back in the right timing and so on, whatever. So, I was very young. I think I was 14 or 15, no more than that. So they were maybe thinking, what is this young boy wanting here to read this text that normally no one reads, no? So I could never get the text. And I had this very strong wish. I want to read this text. I want to read this text. It was very strong. I asked in another library, same thing. During that time, I was not yet going formally to the debate sessions, so I was not also going every morning to the pujas. I would do my daily practice, but I was not going to the formal puja. One day, I wake up very early, naturally, and I listen the gong playing for the calling everyone to go to the puja. And I said, okay, today I go to the puja. I had no idea what puja was there. So I arrived for the puja. And when I sit down, I see which puja was that day, was the reading of the Kangyur. Which is what happened is that once a year, or if someone requests, maybe more, but it's taken all the 108 volumes. And then at each line, everyone is sitting in a line, like this, side by side. At the beginning of the line, they take one volume, they open, and then they divide the pages by each one, and each one read whatever pages you get aloud. So that volume is read aloud by everyone. So in this way, they read all the 108 volumes at once. It's a bit chaotic because everybody reading aloud at the same time, you know. It's very powerful, actually, very beautiful. And this is even something we can at one point do with the different teachings of Rinpoche, the different holy books. It's possible to do also in this way, you know, to read aloud. It's very powerful, actually. It's one of the very old traditions. So I sat there and I got my pages, or maybe 20 pages, you know, from 100. Each volume has 1,000 pages, and I get like 40 pages because I 20, how do you say? Double side, no? So, anyhow, then I turn the first page, then the second one is the Tantra of Tara that I wanted to read. No? But then I was worried, oh, maybe the last pages are with the guy in my side. So, and then the second worry was maybe there is not enough time to read everything. So I start reading it, not too slow, not too fast, because I wanted to feel it, and I was reading. When I finished it, I had all the pages, and when I finished, the puja finished. So it was a very special experience also that. And more or less during that time, there was a moment in which a holiday time was about to come, 1 week holiday. There is a very particular holiday in the monastery in which during 1 week, almost all the rules are not valid anymore. It's very interesting because, okay, the personal vows is something else. But the rules of the monastery, like everything that normally you are not allowed to do, basically you can do what you want. So you have the monks like everyone playing music and dancing. Some of them, they would even rent sound boxes and they put outside of the window, and it would be like the whole day playing poker and each playing football, ping pong. It's like 1 week that everyone goes a bit wild in the monastery. And it's very interesting because it lasts for 1 week, and after 3-4 days people are tired of it. So it's quite interesting somehow. But I never liked it, because when I was small I was quite old, I was old mentality. So I knew this was coming, and I was in a moment in which I was a little bit bored, because I was quite young and I was not going to the formal debate sessions, and my main teacher had no time to teach me because he was busy with other students. So I was thinking, how can I convince him to make time to teach me? So I said, okay, I go for retreat. The true motivation, I wanted teaching. So I went to him and I said, Genla, I like to do one retreat. He said, when? Then I needed to find a solution. I said, oh, during the vacations that we have. He said, okay, which retreat? I had not any idea. So I had just received Tara Chittamani empowerment from Geshe Yeshe Wanchuk in Italy. I said, Tara Chittamani. He said, okay, very good. Bring me the text, I will teach you. And then when he started teaching me the practice, it is just like self-healing. It has the 5 chakras with the 5 taras of the 5 colors, the same number of petals, everything like self-healing. So, and I connected very much to the practice. I did the most beautiful retreat, and has since then been for me one of my main refuges, this practice of Tara Chittamani. Really very, very important for me. So, this just to say that there is this particular connection with Tara in general. All our lineage has always had very strong connection with Tara, always. And the practice of Tara Chittamani has also this particular aspect that has this near lineage. And for us, it's very similar to self-healing, so it really connects very easily. Okay.